Yeah, I'm Dr. B. And yeah, we're going to have now 1 hour together, and it's going to be a dialogue. So, really, what I want to do is I would like for us to exchange ideas. So, to start with, I thought it would be super awesome if each of us can very quickly introduce themselves and just say, what's your name? Where are you coming from? Like, where you are right now? And what means truth for you? Because the topic is, does truth exist? And it's a very profound topic because it's at the foundation of a lot of thought, especially when it comes to sacred geometry.
My name is Gülcan. I'm from Turkey. For me, as you asked right now, it was the answer was truth is fulfillment of consciousness, experiencing itself. But I had never had this thought before in my life, so it came kind of popped up.
Hello, James from London, aka the Super Connector. And I just connect people in life, business. I represent local artists, scientists, and I just learn from all of them. So I'm the least smartest person in the room. I listen to my mentors. So truth is interesting. I loved what you said, Gerchan, about consciousness knowing itself. And I operate as a trusted confidant between business owners, business lead investors, and clients. So I'm consistently in environments where one of my skills, which I've been trained to do, is absorb information from multiple perspectives simultaneously, always conflicting, process it, absorb it, digest it, deconstruct it, analyze it, reanalyze it, reprocess it, and deliver a way that child can understand. I can do that pretty much immediately. Truth is truth from every angle, but it's dependent on the vessel who's perceiving it and reflecting it back. And if their vessel is not on point, then it distorts the field. So we just look for pure signal. Pure signal is truth. That's why I've connected with Dr. B, and I'd like to be your first disciple if you've accepted my application. That's why I'm here. Thank you.
Yeah.
Fiona, I'm in Bali. It's good to see you, Dr. B.
Yeah.
And truth is, I mean, look, I'll just say the first thing. It's brief. It's very subjective.
I'm Kurt. I'm Swiss, and I'm into energy and holy geometry over 30 years. Yeah, and what is truth? For me, truth depends on the consciousness and depends on the level of mindness of the mind. So truth is for everybody different, kind of, but it becomes the same when we are together in a network. We need to find the truth, the common truth. Let's say like this.
Hi, lieve. I'm in Copenhagen. I'm a jeweler. For me, truth is authenticity, alignment with yourself.
Hi, okay, hello. So I'm Raman. I'm currently in Bali. Well, truth. This is the frequency. This is the quality, I would say, of consciousness, which is aligned with the unique imprint of the soul.
I am Monk Sanata Kumara. I'm in Bali. I am from the United States. I do not engage my mind in defining truth. I am consciousness, and so to experience truth, I merely penetrate the matrix of reality with the concept or construct that my brain understands as truth in a symbol and allow myself to experience truth. Definition is a construct, just like thought is a construct.
This is Bonnie. I'm from the US. Currently, I'm in Beijing. I don't have a very sophisticated understanding of, but I used to believe truth exists. Now I mean, at least I don't think in my time frame, in my capacity, in my conscious capacity. From this reference, I'm not sure it exists anymore. I'm not sure I will be able to get to the core of it in my lifetime, but with it being an eternal riddle for me, I think the process of trying to find out about it is very I guess that process defines who I am, and so I'm enjoying it.
Hi, I'm Krish. I'm currently in Bali. For me, truth feels like resonance.
Oh, hi. Yeah, I'm Marvin. I'm in Dominica. Yeah, because I've been thinking, now, what would I say? And then Sanat said something, and I thought, well, can I just say what Sanat said? I think there's either many truths or there's a truth depending on where you are and what you are and what's going on.
Hi, I'm Goldie. I'm currently in
Okay.
England. And for me, what is truth? Well, I feel like there is a truth, like an actual truth. And I feel like everybody's truth is their own truth, and everybody's truth is true. And our job is to come together and hold space for the emergence of the awareness that everybody's truth is true and everybody is right and nobody is wrong. And to come into an alignment field where that actually is true.
Wow. Yeah, I'm very blessed to be surrounded by such high frequency consciousnesses because if I look at all the things that you've been saying, it's actually not so far off what the ancient Greeks were saying, you know? Yeah, it depends on consciousness is subjective. And you just said that the subjective actually is a truth as well. And it's about the alignment of that truth together. It feels like resonance. It defines who I am. It depends on the vessel. It's authenticity, quality of frequency, alignment of the soul, and somewhat hard to grasp. Yeah, the mind tries to grasp it, but somehow it's kind of like this eternal riddle. And it's quite interesting because if we look at, the ancient Greeks, they were having different kinds of ideas about it. So we got Plato, and Plato, he was thinking that truth must exist in a world of perfect forms. So he was very much into this idea of geometry, and that reality is just imperfect copies of that. So we're not experiencing actually the truth directly, only indirectly through our five senses. Now, Aristotle said that truth is correspondence. So a statement is true if it matches reality. And then Socrates said, which some of you basically also said, I know that I know nothing. Basically, that you cannot know it all. It's a journey, you know. So whatever you know now might change, and it's that journey to understand, getting closer to that truth. Heraclitus said the only constant is change. And then Parmenides said exactly the opposite. He said the only unchanging is the true, is the real, is the singular. So yeah, it is an interesting it's an interesting thought, no? Because what is truth means different things for different people. Now my question to you is, okay, we have all these definitions, and some of us say already, you know, there's a subjective truth, right? So something that we personally perceive, because obviously we can only perceive something from our center. And then maybe there's another truth, which is something that you could call ultimate truth or absolute truth. Do you have any examples? What could that be? What could be a subjective truth? What could be an ultimate truth?
So a subjective truth might be death, as just coming up, and a universal truth might be like before duality exists, so like before experientiality, there's that singularity, there's that oneness. And if anything is universal truth, I think that might be that.
Subjective truth is I was born. Humanity interacts with, well, my mom is an example, says, well, everyone was born and everyone is going to die. But my experience is that is a subjective truth. And power, I'm going to back off that word. Consciousness exists when you step beyond this entertaining or courting that you were born.
Oh, I'm calling from Lithuania right now.
Oh, okay.
What truth means to me? Oh, I was just contemplating that actual question a few hours ago when, there's no single truth. I think that's the key insight that I had. Everyone has their own truth, and perhaps you can tell us differently today. But I feel there's no one single source of truth, at least from the human prism. But perhaps from the universal prism, there is another level to look at it. That's it.
Is there a shared truth between all of us right now?
In the stillness, knowing who we are.
I think that we're all aware that is actually, we can say, truth. Everything is always moving, changing. That's also universal truth.
And what is that? What makes it change?
Oh, good question. Entropy. That's the universal, it's happening all the time. But that's something that we can know for sure. That's the only thing that we can know for sure, that everything is moving.
And what about your center?
Again?
What about your center?
Ah, yes. In the physical reality, everything is moving.
It's interesting, yeah, because you weren't there. I was just mentioning the two very opposite ideas of the two ancient Greek philosophers. One was saying the only truth is the stuff that's always changing. Yeah, you're right. And the other one was saying it's actually the thing that's always unchanging, the one that's silent. Now, these are very opposite ideas, and yet could they both be true?
I think that's exactly the difference between awareness that I said before, and then that everything is moving. Somewhere in between lies the truth.
Yeah. So what in the reality is moving, and what in the reality is still?
The stillness is the changing nature. Is that a semantic game? It just whatever is eternally true is the fact that everything is changing. There's nothing constant. But by nature, it's sort of like an oxymoron when we say that. But I guess that's a statement that connected the two contradictory statements you made earlier. Whether what is true is eternally changing, or what is eternally not changing. So I guess it's really so whenever I come to this point, I always thought the whole thing is a fucking semantic game. It was like, why am I mean, but I'm still intrigued by it. but am I just playing word games with myself?
Yeah. Okay, let me draw you this. You see that?
Yep.
Which of the two, the dot or the circle, which are moving and which is not moving?
They both can be moving, both can be not moving, right?
Oh, interesting. Let's think about the earth. What's moving in the earth?
The sun.
The wind.
Okay, yeah. So the planets are moving, right? They're moving. So the planets are moving around the sun.
Well,
Yeah.
in reference,
This
it
is
depends on what you're referencing to, right?
Exactly, yeah.
this is not my perspective that we are moving, but
Yeah, okay. So, okay. What is moving? We said, okay, most of us actually agree on that, yeah? That something's moving, right? Something's changing.
I would say that in the ultimate, we're not moving at all from that perspective.
Right.
But, so we're moving and not moving. It's infinite. And where are we there in that infinite?
Okay, let's think about, because, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're definitely right that it's all a matter of perspective, right? Back to the illusion of reality we experience right now. Yeah, and we're sitting here in this reality, and right now we have a center, and the center is, in our experience, always in the center, whether we're moving or not. So something's always moving. You're right. The Earth is rotating, yeah, around itself. Planets are rotating around the sun, and time is existing as a perception of our reality. Otherwise, we wouldn't have any change. So there is a concept of time that's changing, and there's a concept that we're moving around this reality and this reality is changing around us. But in reference point to the dot, which is us inside of the body, you could say somewhere, it's always in reference to the stillness point inside. So in this reality, the reality is moving and it's simultaneously not moving because we're not moving. We're always in the center. It's not like we're off center. We're always in the center, but the reality is always moving around us. Yeah, time is changing. The planets are moving. There are certain laws. Would you see it like that, or would you disagree?
I mean, in a yogic scripture that I really love is whenever we close our eyes and start meditating, it's like our perspective immediately shifts towards the center of the universe is said to be the case. So it's like we're kind of in this illusion of separation, which is kind of that distance of our mind concept from the core of consciousness that kind of creates this whole thing, is explained as such and understood by me in this way. So I would argue that we kind of, as soon as we close our eyes, we're kind of immediately connected to the same point that cannot be differentiated between you, me, Avi, Fiona. But it's like as soon as we open our eyes again or start thinking, it's like we're in this kind of bubble that we chose to be, which also kind of adds up to how the moments are created. It was something you shared about that 5 stars thing that creates the moment by moment, the 5, by this how to say, concurrent choice.
Okay, this is so okay, let's switch a little bit, yeah, because obviously we have all of us, most of us actually here are very much internal, yeah. It's very much in the consciousness, very much how we feel this reality works. Now, this is what you're saying, you were meditating and you were going inside and you experienced something. Now, the question is that what you experience, is that actually the truth? According to Goldie, yes, and I wouldn't even deny it. But let's think about, let's go back to this idea, what can we define as common truths? Because right now, this is not necessarily my perception right now, I'm not in that meditative space. I'm right here with my senses outward into the external reality. Now, what is it that we can find as common ground for this reality? Say, okay, this is truth. This is true for you, and it's the truth for me too. And one thing we were agreeing on just now was that something's always changing. Yeah, time is changing. And then there's a reference point, which is you, which is at the center, which is always at the center. So technically that's not moving. So these are 2 things already. Are there other things you would say would be a common notion of agreement? Because the problem is if we just go with our subjective experience, then yes, the reality is very vast and there's many different laws in the reality. But let's bring it down to something actually that we can all experience right now and build the truth from here. And that's actually the point, when we come to science, for example, it's about that. It's about actual reality. We experience the laws that we experience, and we're trying to build out an approximation of the truth from exactly the things that we do experience with the physical body before we go into like all of the inner realms and all of the journeys that a lot of you guys have experienced and definitely are true. But it's about finding a common ground, a common language.
I can give an example.
Yeah.
I've got a brown shiny head, as you can see, and I was sitting in the sun on the table. I had my shades on because the sun was too bright, and my head was burning. And I sat there for as long as I could, and now I'm in the shade. My head's cool. I don't need the shades. I've taken it off. So in that moment at the table, I was burning. Now I'm in the shade. I'm cool. But if any of you were here, you'd be experiencing the same thing. So it is subjective, but also true, which is where it gets a bit tricky. And the second point, hopefully you put me on the application list to become your first disciple. So I'm trying my best to impress you now. But if we look at the ancient Vedas, I learned from them. I was brought up Catholic, so I've sat at the feet of rabbis, Christian preachers, Muslim imam, swamis, all sorts. And I was very confused as a child, but I'm still confused, but getting there. And Achinta Abeda Beda Tattva. Achinta Abeda Beda Tattva. And what that means is the supreme creator is the creation and the creator simultaneously yet different. So it's three separate truths integrated in one coherent signal.
Well, you were affected by the sun, okay? And well, if we would be there, we'll be affected by the sun, okay? If we were in the same space. And so that in a sense is, let's say, we need to distinguish between what is objective and what is subjective. And the question is if there is an objective, or if the subjective that we all experience, has a common ground. So in a way, there are reality effects that we experience that are the same. One is the sun, yes. What else? Time, okay. What else? What else do we all experience right now? Space, yes.
Awareness.
Well, some people don't, but yes. Yeah.
Here we all do.
We're all on this call.
We're all on this call, yay!
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. There's a shared experience right now we're having, yeah. You're sitting all in different spaces, and yet we're all connected through this device, which is a computer, which, thanks to science, we've gotten so far to transmit knowledge this way. And science is also built on truth to some extent. At least, by understanding certain aspects of truth, it can mold reality. And that's how we got into this technology. If we wouldn't be able to understand anything about reality, we wouldn't have gotten this technology. So you see what I'm saying? There are truths that internal, okay? And then there are truths that are external, which is about how reality works. And one of the things is, yes, we all experience time. We all experience space. We all experience the relationship between ourselves, the center, our consciousness that is still, and the reality that is ever moving around us. And we experience light. What else? We experience sound, right? We hear things. We experience matter, atoms. Yeah. We experience, what else? Five senses,
Heike, for me, if I summarize all the things at the end, for me is presence, and when I'm in the presence, to be honest, I cannot distinguish from duality, like what is inside, what is outside, because everything is oneness, we know. So it's always again coming to the point of the level of consciousness. But as soon as I we heard concept, I try to define, then I'm not in the presence, because my mind is not. Presence is something more deep than I can talk to. So but of course we can talk a lot, and
Very good. It's interesting what you just said, because you said the words, words can be deceiving in a way. Words can be deceiving, and that's very much true, because a word can mean many different things for different people. It's all about the words in our culture. Actually, it's all about the story. It's all about what's the meaning for us. For example, if I say the word love, what does it mean to you? Just quickly, what do you think? What does love mean to you?
Chocolate.
Chocolate, okay.
Being immersed in something other than what I call self. Fully immersed.
So one word for me, oneness.
We are love.
Yes.
Sleep. I could do with a bit more sleep.
Okay. Yeah. Roman?
Frequency.
Mm-hmm. Now, the point I'm making here with this exercise is this is quite an interesting thing. Now, I tell you a word love, and you see how everybody says something different, right? Because it means something different for them. And this is, let's say, the challenge with words, because very often, we're using words a lot because that's how we communicate. And yet the meaning of what those words mean depends on our own subjective truth. Yeah. Now, what is then the difference between what we mean and what it is? And this is the big, maybe some teaching here. Yeah. This is the big revelation, in ancient Greece, because they were trying to understand truth, and they were trying to give it a framework of how do we quantify it, and they basically brought forward a system of two departments. One about word, yeah, which is the trivium, the rhetoric, the logic, the grammar, how we communicate things, how that makes sense, yeah, and the other one is that of number. And number is like mathematics, geometry, astronomy, music. And they kind of divided the reality into these two different things. So we can describe reality through the word, or we can describe it also through number. What is the difference between those two?
Poetry and logic, maybe.
Can we say one is subjective, one is objective?
Which one is subjective? Which one is objective?
I hope the word is subjective.
Yeah, the word is kind of, they call it also the egregary. This is how we actually define our personality. It's all about the words, the culture we're from, language, all of that. And the word doesn't mean it represents what it is. For example, if I say, well, whatever I say, like, look at my wrist here, right? So normally, when I say, look at my wrist, people, when they talk about words, they will look at my finger, right? Because a finger is something that represents what it represents. Yeah. So it doesn't represent itself. Like a wrist may be called different in different languages, right? A wrist is not a wrist. It's just a word that represents a wrist, right? But with number, or let's say geometry, a circle, going back to just that, a circle represents itself. I don't need a word to describe what it is. I can draw a circle and it will be universal throughout all cultures. They all have been working in circles, Circles are everywhere. In every culture, they're sitting in circles. And there's no confusion about it, right? Because the language of geometry represents itself. That's the difference. That's a difference to words. Because words, I can call it a circle, I can call it a Kreis, because it's a German word. I can call it pi, which is the mathematical definition of the circumference to the diameter. Yeah, there's various meanings attached to the circle, but it's all inside of the circle. And so that's why in the early days, they were pretty much certain that however we define reality must be rooted, the truth must be rooted in number, in shape, because it represents itself. There is no ambiguity. And you can call it like, this is consciousness, this is awareness, this is always changing. And it's true, it is changing. But there are mechanisms that make these things change, It's like right now, we're here in space and we're all sitting on the ground because we are immersed in a gravitational field. We're not floating in space. We are right now on the ground. And maybe some people may be able to levitate themselves because some people can. But let's say overall, most people are bound by these laws that are universal, at least universal in this environment. Yeah, we don't know how it is in another planet or in another consciousness state, That's a different story. But right now, right here in this physical body, in this so-called earth illusion that we all externally experience, we have certain laws. And whether or not we like this duality or not, we all are here, and we all go through these laws of time. We all age, we all were born, we all die. What this experience of that moment is, that's a different story, because that's internal. But externally, there are certain things that are repeatable. That's why science, for example, exists, because we were able to find laws that are repeatable, and so coming closer to actually an ultimate truth of the mechanisms of reality itself. And that's really why geometry, in a sense, is becoming so important, because it gives us a more clear language to define that. Even if it's just a construct, it's like as close as it gets, right? So Plato, for example, of course, yeah, everything we experience is subjective, because we are human beings right now, yeah, and we have only 5 senses. I'm not talking about the internal senses. I'm just talking about externally, how you can, just transmit information from the outside of this reality into your internal brain. And these are touch, sight, hearing, smell, taste. This is the information you're getting right now. And there are 5 senses for each one of us. So if we're all having the same experience, like James said, okay, I'm feeling the sun on my head, then it's the same, right? In that moment, I can breathe air right now. I can breathe. If I'm underwater, I cannot breathe, right? So that's also a reality. It's a truth. And if we all go underwater, we're all going to experience the same thing. But, or however, because we don't actually experience all reality. Like, for example, when you see things, when you see light, you don't actually see all of the electromagnetic spectrum. You only see a very small slither, which we call visible light. The rest of it, like, for example, how phones transmit signals, that's all light, by the way. We don't see that. Some people may do, but again, these are frequencies that are mostly invisible, because it's just that our cells are not able to take in all of that information. So we actually don't see the truth. Yeah, we don't actually see the truth. We only see a filtered version of the truth. The same goes for touch. I mean, we only ever can touch what's in our direct environment. Cannot touch you right now. I can see you, beautiful creatures, but I can't touch you because I'm not in your reality right now. The same goes for hearing. I don't hear the street because my windows are closed. Yeah. So we're kind of limited in the way we perceive the reality right now, very much limited. And yet there are laws. And there's a very beautiful analogy by Plato. And he called it the Plato's allegory cave. And basically it's a thought experiment. And he was saying, imagine we're all prisoners, that been chained in a cave, and we're only facing a wall. And the only thing we ever see is the shadows on that wall. So behind us, there's a fire and something's happening behind us. And we only ever see the shadow. So we don't actually see the actual reality. And then one prisoner gets free, and he gets outside of the cave, and he's like, oh my God, there's this whole other world out there. And it's just like all amazing. And it's basically everything a lot of you guys were talking about, that there is this other truth, that there is this unity consciousness, there's other realms and realities and feelings that show us other things about truth. And they bring it back. And then obviously a lot of the people do not believe that, because the scientific methodology hasn't been able to quantify those experiences. So this is a philosopher's journey, so to comprehend what is not directly visible, not directly, that you can't directly experience, but that there are extensions of that direct experience from where we have to come from. Because if we cannot ground it into something, that's why it's so important. It's important to have the spiritual ideas and the experience we have internally that I do not want to dismiss because the reality is so crazy and so vast. And yeah, you'll always start to learn more and more. And this is exactly what one of the ancient philosophers said. You think you know, but you don't know nothing. It's always changing. The truth is always expanding. And what we know today will be maybe different in 1,000 years, in 10,000 years. So yes, you'll never probably be there to understand it all. But you get closer to it, you get closer to understanding or comprehending something. And it reflects in the way we advance with our society. So everything that we create in our reality, every music, every technology, every building is a direct effect of our understanding of how this reality works, how the truth actually is. And so so I guess what I want to say is that there is a pathway towards the truth, and this is the ever evolving journey towards the truth. And there's foundations, and I think the most important thing is to understand is that truth does not have any paradoxes. So whatever that truth is, that you experience and I experience, when we all experience, must be unified, must be true from a certain angle, like what Goldie was saying. Yeah, we all experience our subjective experience, but from a certain perspective, all of this makes sense. And I don't mean the interpretation of it, I mean the actual experience of it. Yeah, because interpretations and meanings, again, can be deceiving.
Wow.
I was just going to say deception is real, and awareness, intention, and attention is critical. But if we're not aware of the deception, then that's very, very dangerous. That's a lot of the work that I do with the global businesses. And yeah, it's a very, very fine line. Sometimes it's not even a line.
The whole conversation for me is just Om Namah Shivaya,
Oh,
I am I am that. I am consciousness. Like we dancing with these words again, but like the whole time you're speaking, I'm just hearing Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Everything you said, Om Namah Shivaya, like you gave me that. You put that in the field, Om Namah Shivaya. I'm sure you said some things, but that's what I heard.
Maybe what we could do now is let's all take a turn, and out of this call, because it's been a lot of ideas and a lot of perspectives, and anything that you feel like you want to take with you, something maybe new or something you've heard, something you feel like, okay, this is something that I got out of this, and maybe you want to just share it.
I wish to take away that I observe or experience a very fragmented, like we went of light with that, but even on a thought level or at any given moment, there is like a fraction of reality that's being observed, like based on focus or many other factors that I can't imagine right now. But to really just have that humility of I can experience only a very small fraction of reality at any given point, and to kind of, well, if we diverge more into that, to learn how to kind of keep a wider perspective might be interesting.
What I take away from it is the importance of the commitment to live in truth, and not necessarily to define it, but to actively create it within yourself, reflect it back, see it, embody it, and then allowing that. Because when I think his name's James said, deception is real. I feel like I've dealt with that in business. Like, someone stole $250,000 from me, and it's like they were so sincere. There was no way, and it's like, deception is real. And what I took from that was, if I had been tuned enough to the consciousness of truth, then I would have felt the disturbance and been able to identify that was not reflecting back to me truth. So you're having the conversation about defining truth makes me realize how important it is to be truth.
I liked how you brought up that triangles, circle, or shapes are like a truth that is beyond subjectivity. So I like thinking of shapes as a language. That I enjoyed that, contemplating that this evening.
I took Nashanaya. Thank you, Sonata. The holy name of creator. Thank you.
I thought that was a great leeway into sacred geometry. Why geometry is sacred? Because it embodies certain truths that we can't touch with our faculties. So for me, that was a great pet talk for what's I'm curious what's coming next.
No, I think that nothing is really true. and and yeah, only a dot or circle or can be in the matter, so to say.
I think that my takeaway that nothing is, it appears. Yeah, that's the magic of life. That nothing is, it appears, and yet it appears. But it's nice to go into it. That's what I take. It was interesting to get another movement into it, to discover the magic for another prism.
From an ancient Greek view, that geometry number, the idea of number, is actually the foundation of reality, the truth that's undeniable. Ultimately, even consciousness is a numerical construct. And that's where, let's say, sacred geometry comes in, because it's a way of understanding the truth from the very most abstract, most basic foundation. It's the way this reality works. I mean, even the idea of oneness is already a number. Unity is already a number. Space is already a shape. Time is a function of shape. All of these ideas, gravity, light, all of that is also, again, an effect of energy in space. Energies as also relationships to geometry. And I mean, this is like, let's say, from my point of view and my feeling about how this reality works. In my journey, I really feel like you can break down everything into just that. And the words is our way of expressing these things, but ultimately underneath it all, it's just a numerical construct. It's like the matrix. And it's from number itself that consciousness starts to emerge from. Let's say intelligence starts to emerge from. And understanding that will bring us closer, and will bring us closer to the divine, to the God consciousness, however you want to call that, and shows us how everything is actually connected, the mechanics of that reality, how it is connected, how we can be in this reality and simultaneously in other realities, how time works, how gravity works, how something can be duality and also unity. It's the language that, for me, expresses all of that, and it gives me a framework. Yes, a framework of the mind, and yet the framework of the mind also drips into the soul, because it changes the way your energy field works, whether you understand it or not, because it's frequencies, right? So for me, the solution of approaching the truth is within that, because it's the language that gets rid of all the bias. It just gets rid of all of the words, because you don't need them in that way. You can just focus on the forms, and those forms are repeatable. They are undisputable. They align with scientific data, and if they do, then I guess we are closer to the truth than maybe certain ideas we have about it, right? Because ultimately there are universal laws, and we are bound to them at the moment, at least in this body. So I feel like my pathway goes through that and understanding that. But there are probably also many other ways how we can approach this. But for me, it's the one path that I can delve into with logic as much as intuitive understanding. And it's very important, this knowledge is so important to bring this to the planet because it shows us how the truth has the answers, has the answers and how to live life, harmony of life, how there are answers in the subjective experiences we're having as well, that we were talking today about death and birth, what happens on those moments, and are there other experiences before or after. All of these things find answers in geometry. There is a framework that makes sense with that as much as it makes sense with scientific phenomena. And so, yes, I'm building a program around that. And the idea is ultimately to have a proper curriculum and a proper school around these topics. And so, yeah, it's all in the making. So hopefully, we can create a movement within this kind of topic to bring out the truth so we can elevate ourselves as a collective and connect each other again, in ways that brings balance to the world, bring us from duality into unity, which is really what sacred geometry is about. It shows us this process to bring in balance. So that's the work I do. I do also have these 2 books. I think a lot of you have them already. But yeah, and there's a lot on the website, which I can also share.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
for holding this, and everyone for joining and making it such a buzzing experience on the frequency level. Yeah.
Thank you for joining from all around the world, and I hope I see you very, very soon. You're all very awesome, and thank you for coming to this reality with me.